Ioseb, Stalin, married 3 times. Before his 3rd marriage, he had 4 children. 3 to his first 2 wives combined, and a 4th adopted after his parents were killed in a horrible train accident in Russia. To sound more familiar, my uncles Yakov, Vasily, and Artyom, and my auntie Svetlana. All the male children were homosexual, and Svetlana was bisexual. He was just one of those parents, like my father Kevin, who seemed to find having homosexual children somehow inherently pleasantly amusing in some way. All the males ended up in the Russian military, never having any children with consent. Svetlana spent most of her time rearing others' children. Svetlana never had a legitimate child in her lifetime. After divorcing his 2nd wife, Ioseb was a very busy man being called Stalin as a joke. He thought his children were cool, but he never spent all that much quality time exploring ancestral history with them. He and they always seemed just too busy. In the end, a female was sent in to attempt to befriend and date him Fatal Attraction style in 1937, to use a modern movie theme. That female was raised by the terrorism group who bred her with sperm they stole off then Crown Prince Adolf Hitler the Hohenzollern in 1906 when he was 17. Her name was Donna Podolsky, and Stalin had no idea who she was. She was the firstborn child to my great-grandfather Kaiser Adolf Hitler the Hohenzollern stolen sperm, born in 1907. Her mother was Janet Podolsky, a biological half-sister of General Franco of Spain, who was also part Zorro. Donna was the firstborn illegitimate child, and the only one to be registered to her mother at birth. There were no more children successfully born to Kaiser Adolf's sperm after 1917. Janet was infamously later found dead in a bunker in Berlin in 1945, killed whilst pretending to be a fictitious character called Eva Braun. Her daughter Donna, born 1907, was the only reason she ended up in the bunker during the heinously evil neo-Nazi traders period between their establishment by name in December 1943 to the end of World War II. Sometime during 1937, Ioseb took a short 15-minute break before he was scheduled to have several long and boring meetings. He rebelliously wandered into a semi-public garden courtyard area and found a pretty curly-haired female who was fondling some flowers. He sat down and started talking to her. When the conversation finished, he had been sitting there around 2 hours. He checked the time, realized he had missed several meetings, and went back into the building he was in for the day. They struck up a casual, very suddenly mainly sexual-themed relationship. He was a very busy man, and only had an hour or 2 maximum spare per day. Donna seemed spontaneous and fun compared to his strictly scheduled life in the short periods he spent with her. Not the psychopath he later realized she was. They ended up sort of living together in his spare time. That spontaneity in his spare moments resulted in them getting married in 1938. She became Mrs. Donna Djugashvili, his 3rd wife. It was during a wedding ceremony that involved her seeming to be unable to keep her head from vibrating enough to wiggle her hair, which he was told was nerves. They had a marriage that involved spending bizarrely small amounts of time together until early 1939. You likely will not find any references to it on the obvious publicly available internet information. The entire thing through to me is fully documented, KGB style. In December 1938, my great-grandfather, then Prince Imperial Adolf Hitler the Hohenzollern, was openly asked by his predecessor former Kaiser Prince Wilhelm II, who had abdicated to him in November 1918, if he could finally get around to being crowned monarch of Germany. Because he wanted to go and see the look on his face when a crown was put on his head. It was a request made during Christmas dinner in 1938 by Adolf's elderly cousin that was too difficult to refuse. Adolf started trying not to cry after slumping in his seat, trying not to say no out loud with a whimpering noise, resisting the urge to quietly say you bastard. Wilhelm II banged on the table with a comical, damn it, pull yourself together man. Adolf had to announce his coronation 12 months in advance to the public, due to conditions placed on a coronation occurring by Wilhelm II in the abdication in 1918 designed to allow people time to recover from World War I. Wilhelm II had assumed the new monarch would be crowned by 1920, but Adolf did not regain enough physical and mental health after his near-fatal wounding during World War I until around 5 years after Armistice Day, which was 2 days after Adolf was abdicated to. Adolf spent years in hospital after WW1. Adolf publicly announced his coronation as monarch of Germany would be on the 18th of January, 1940 at the specific request of his cousin Wilhelm II, a year in advance on the 18th of January, 1939. The news was all over Europe soon after. Donna was given the news and she knew who her biological father was, even if others including her husband didn't. 3 months after the news was all over Europe, she suddenly jumped her husband Ioseb demanding a baby or divorce, almost exactly 9 months before her biological father Adolf's planned coronation date. He eventually relented and said yes, as he didn't really mind the idea of another child, but got a bit carried away when agreeing and made some theatrical vows and promises. My mother Judith was conceived in around April 1939. Around halfway through the pregnancy, in August 1939, Ioseb, Stalin, was attacked whilst drinking at one of those typically Russian coffee table hard drinking establishments. It was a pre-planned move his wife was part of planning, and was not the first attempt. He fell backwards off his chair at the table, landed on his back, and fell to unconscious like a bell ringing until it stopped. He woke up in a hospital room. He was quickly, melodramatically, told he had a catastrophic stroke, as if it was the first thing they wanted him to hear. He was paralyzed from the neck down with only very limited movement, which made no sense to him. He was told medical testing was still in progress. Whilst he had been in an eventual induced coma, Donna had consulted her terrorism associates. She was told to do, quote, what Einstein did to all of his victims. Sever the spinal column at the waist or neck and disable the victim. She chose the neck. She was then told to convince him the cause was a stroke and put him in nursing care. Feed him information, including as if to help him continue his political duties as head of state, and ask him questions, record or write down the answers, then send it to the terrorism group. They would then have it sorted through to see if any of it could be added to books for release in the future, with the author listed as Albert Einstein, who pretended he wrote a dozen or more books a month at one stage. The medical team did thorough testing, noting down very limited movement in some areas, particularly one arm, and officially declared Ioseb, Stalin, a quadriplegic with a medical certification of permanent disability. When news filtered through he was officially declared a quadriplegic, World War II was officially declared on for the first time on the 1st of the following month. The 1st of September, 1939. If they had not have disabled him when unconscious until mid-November, it probably would have been declared on for the 1st of December, if you understand what I mean. My grandfather Ioseb Djugashvili, known also as Joseph Stalin, was officially a quadriplegic before World War II officially started. Whilst he was in 24-hour-a-day nursing care, his second legitimate daughter, my mother Judith Margaret Djugashvili, was born on the 6th of January, 1940 and made a citizen of Russia. He was in a country house when she was born that they later pretended he was under permanent house arrest in after World War II, in the fake history records. Ioseb had no part in her name, her mother Donna had insisted on naming the baby herself. It turned out to be a lunatic version of a message to her biological father Adolf Hitler the Hohenzollern, who was due to be crowned monarch of Germany 12 days later. She tried to make the name sound like it meant that if he took his male Jewish homosexual rabbi partner to his coronation, who was on the official guest list as his partner date, it would mar the ceremony and he would be made regret it until death. Judith Margaret. Donna was secretly thrilled that the birth was just 12 days before Adolf's coronation. My great-grandfather and predecessor Kaiser Adolf Hitler the Hohenzollern was crowned at Wurzburg, Germany, 12 days after my mother Judith was born, his biological granddaughter. My mother Judith Margaret's first and middle names were not a threat to kill Jews, regardless of how tempting the idea to pretend it is can be in modern times. Ioseb and Donna's marriage quickly broke down after the birth, with my mother taking a surprisingly large amount of it in during her first 2 years. My mother Judith was raised and cared for as an infant in the presence of her disabled father, including things like breastfeeding and nappy changes. She touched him frequently and had to learn to try to touch his face when she did, as he couldn't feel her touching him properly elsewhere. It was all whilst her mother Donna tormented her disabled husband in ways that became more crystalline the longer she did it. He couldn't move, so she expressed herself a lot more assertively. She was the complete monster. Ioseb asked his medical team if there was any chance he could be shipped to Gippsland to visit where his father Bessarionis was from and explore his Australian ancestry. He had always wanted to, but never got around to it as he was too busy. The lead doctor vetoed it, saying it was too logistically difficult for a quadriplegic. He started crying about it, right in front of his wife. Donna immediately seized on it, and made plans to officially export her daughter Judith to the Gippsland region of Australia for adoption, under Russian baby exportation laws. She filled in the documents, packed up her daughter, submitted the request, and shipped her to Gippsland in around 1942. As if the motives made her blissfully unaware of the wartime risks. Judith was eventually adopted by Bill and May Marslen of Mo, Gippsland. She became Judith Margaret Marslen. Donna told her daughter that if her father Ioseb tried to communicate with her, she was to describe how beautiful and awesome Gippsland was to him when he did, so that her mother could sit and watch him every day to see if he started crying again when she did. They decided to get divorced. Donna immediately went for the emotional metaphorical gut punch, saying she did not want anything that she could keep. No property, money, souvenirs, wedding items, rings, photographs, nothing. All that she wanted was cold hard cash, and lots of it. My grandfather said yes surprisingly quickly. She got a very large sum of money, signed an official divorce receipt, they received the finalized divorce documents, and they were married no more. As a parting gesture of her original intent, she sexually assaulted him and stole his sperm, so it could be put in frozen storage and used to conceive babies. Then got pregnant with it one more time after the divorce was through before she left and never returned. She dumped the baby unregistered after birth, calling him baggage a wealthy woman didn't need, or something similar. His name was likely Jim Morrison, lead singer of the band The Doors. By the time he was an adult, he looked remarkably like his mother. After Jim Morrison became well known to the public via his music, his biological mother Donna was involved in stalking him throughout his career afterwards. People made regular attempts to make him collapse and appear to be struggling to move from the hips or neck down when he was in public, apparently. He probably also did some suggested things, not fully aware of what they were suggesting it for.